we're here with the filmmakers behind Save the Date, and I want to ask you, what is this movie about? Can you tell me who you are and what you're doing on Save the Date?
Well, I'm Jordan Horowitz. I'm one of the producers.
I'm Mike Mohan. I'm the director.
I'm Michael Royf. I'm one of the other producers.
Excellent. So what's this movie about? It's a romantic comedy.
Yeah, it's
a non-romantic comedy.
I'm going to throw it to him after I say this, but
Yeah.
it's a romantic film and it's a comedic film.
Okay.
It's a very contemporary romantic comedy, a modern romantic comedy.
Yeah. The story is about a woman named Sarah, played by Lizzie Kaplan, who breaks up with her long-term boyfriend only to be thrust into the most intense relationship of her life. Meanwhile, her sister Beth, played by Alison Brie, she's preparing for her own wedding and sort of driving her fiance away through the process. And so it's about Sarah, her sister, her ex-boyfriend, her new boyfriend, and her sister's fiance, and how all these people, while trying to help each other out, just end up messing things up.
Very
It's
cool.
fun and
Very
funny
cool.
and sad and sweet and
Really
You know.
authentic.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's
very
a
real.
really it's a genuine film.
good Friday night date movie, I think.
exactly.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's what we like to see. It's different for Sundance. Do you feel like you've been received in a different way because it's
Well, we haven't
not
screened
the typical-
yet, so
Okay.
we'll see how we're received.
Yeah.
If it's
You're
different
waiting.
or
Yeah.
the same or what.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, it is funny. There are definitely like a number of films starring women up here this year. Everybody's been talking about it pretty fast, and it's funny they lump them all into like, well, Bridesmaids was great, so now we have a bunch of raunchy women comedies, and I think, it's funny because I know all of the films that are sort of being compared to Bridesmaids. I don't think any of them are really quite like
Yeah,
it.
no.
They star women.
But it's
But
cool because
that's-
when you say it's a little bit different, it's got sort of the commercial sensibilities to be able to play to kind of real audiences. But Mike's such a strong filmmaker with a strong vision. You're blushing a little bit. It's also got all of those sensibilities that are the hallmarks of Sundance. It's a movie. It's a real filmmaker's film, and I think
I want to
people
see
like
it. That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
I
it's
want
not
to.
too
That's
pretty.
the kind of movie that makes you feel good.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
have to come to Sundance and be depressed.
No.
No.
You can
Def-
find.
I
you
mean,
can,
well,
though,
you can
if you would like to be
totally.
very
it's out there. There are chances to do that. As Mike Mohan has said many times, at the end of the film, it should feel like you've hung out with 5 of your good friends, and you should want to continue hanging out with them. And I think the film stays with you because of that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so were you friends before? How did this come together that you got worked
Well,
on this project?
6 years ago, it's actually based on the root of the film is based on characters created by this graphic novelist named Jeff Brown, who's a graphic novelist out of Chicago. He writes these amazing graphic novels. A lot of them are about his failed past relationships, and there's sort of these series of moments that arc together to form the sort of arc of that relationship. So like 6 years ago, I emailed him and said, hey, do you want to work on a film? And he and Egan Reich, one of the other writers, started working on a screenplay. And after a while, Mohan sort of heard about it and emailed me and said, hey, I've got a film at Sundance. I'm a huge Jeffrey Brown fan. Told me an amazing story that I'll let him tell you that really endeared him to me.
Ooh.
And meanwhile, Royf and I had been friends for a long time, been looking for a project to work on together. And it just sort of, he nailed it with a sort of a draft that he worked on with the writers. Royf and I really loved it. We started casting, and it just kind of blossomed from there. But yeah, we'd always been friends, and I saw his film at Sundance 2 years ago. So, Sundance.
And what's your story that you told that was amazing?
Yeah, so when I was getting married to my wife about 2.5 years ago, actually before I was getting married to my wife, I wanted to get her like the perfect wedding present. And we were both fans of Jeffrey Brown's work prior to all of this. We were big fans. So his email address is on the back cover of some of his early books, and so I just wrote to that email address in the same way that Jordan wrote to him to write a script.
Yeah.
I wrote to him to ask if he would draw a picture of my wife and I that I could give to her for our wedding, and so he wrote back, and he drew this great drawing of one of the middle stages of our relationship, and when we were getting married, and there was a rehearsal dinner, and we're opening our gifts, and I noticed that her gift was the exact same size as mine, and I started opening it, and I saw his sort of trademark black pen on white, and she, independently of me, had also reached out to, seriously, reached out to him, a guy who we did not know, to draw us. And so when we were on our little honeymoon afterwards, we called him and we're like, what did you think? And he was like, I wasn't sure if you were playing a prank on me or what. And then we had him do a third drawing that's of the moment of us opening our gifts. And my wife's was of our first date. Mine was from the middle of our relationship, and then we have this third one that's of the day before we got married.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's like destiny to work with him after
And like,
that.
Yeah.
not, like
Yeah.
you sit
Yeah.
down with the guy and he tells you the story and the script that I've been trying to find, and like we hadn't perfectly found it yet, was so indebted to Jeff Brown's work. And he
Yeah.
sits and tells me it's like it was a match, you know.
What was it like to start writing after that? Like to jump in, they already had some material. Was that
Yeah,
tough?
well, they had done like 20 drafts of the script, and it had a million. Like, I mean, there were
We did a lot of drafts.
Yeah, and what struck me the first time I read it were the characters were just so like his books. They were characters that stick with you, and the script had so many great moments. So when I was working on it, you know, I had all of Jeff Brown's books next to me that I would flip through, and like there's even shots in the movie that are taken from some of his art, and his artwork actually features a prominent role in the movie. And I would also, you know, we'd call and I'd call them and ask them for advice, and it was really great because like I did feel like they gave me the reins to run with it, but at the same time I think they felt good because they were very much included in that process, and nobody was precious about anything. And I think when I look at the final film and I looked at one of their earlier drafts not that long ago, and really the essence is still there. It's just I think I added like a spine to it. I think that was my contribution.
When you're in your writing process and you're coming up with ideas, how do you get together with everyone to talk? Is it on the phone, or are you in a big room? Do you improv scenes? How do you get
With this-
through like a?
Well, it
speed bump?
was funny because like they sort of like just gave me the reins and said run with it, and so I was sort of off on my own. And at the time, I was working for a record label directing music videos, and I was having actually a really hard time because I was getting sidetracked by two of the characters in the movie are in a band, and so I drew this. There's this whole section that I veered so far off course, dealing with the rock star character, trying to deal with what it's like to be an indie musician, because that was what my life was at the time. And I remember, you know, a few months in, I went back and I reread one of their early drafts, and I was like, oh, I'm totally messing this up. And and thankfully I got laid off. And
You never hear that people say
no,
that.
it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because at that point it was like, it was a moment for me to be like, all right, well, I've been at Sundance once before with a low budget feature. I have this great opportunity in front of me. I just did all these music videos. Like, are you going to be a filmmaker, or are you going to not be a filmmaker? And so for me, I actually flew home to, after a trip to Poland with my first film, I went home and just sort of hunkered down in my childhood bedroom and just wrote solid for 2 weeks, like really focusing on it. And yeah, and at the end of it, it was actually quite quick once I was able to get that headspace where I didn't have to go to work every day. And
How can you talk about how you give notes when you have a writer and you know they're struggling, or anyone, because it's always tough to write. What happens when you come in, you have to say how you feel about something? How do you deal with that? That seems to be one of the hardest things of filmmaking, is like collaborating.
I mean, you know, it's funny that I think if you're working with the right people, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
You know, I hate to.
I would have to agree.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's great if it's not hard.
Nobody was
it
precious.
It was deeply collaborative.
Yeah.
I don't really want to do films that aren't. You know, we can have a long-ranging discussion about producers, but we probably shouldn't do that.
But I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I think for us,
That's
especially as
interesting.
producers, like, we view it as a team sport.
Yeah.
You know, more than
It is,
anything.
and like
It has to be.
I there's a way to be a strong producer and also to service the filmmaker and make sure that is
Yeah.
it's because at the end of the day, every film that I want to make is a filmmaker-driven film. Is something that has a specific vision and has a very clear point of view. When point of views get muddled, especially in films like this, it's when you can see it on screen. So I do, you know, there's a fine line, but you do need to be a strong producer, and you do need to you need to push back and collaborate, and do all the things that producers do.
And it's about knowing. I think it's about knowing each other's roles, and it's about taking on the responsibilities that you're supposed to take on. I mean, if we, not to sound callous and arrogant, but it's like if we want to direct it, we should have chosen to direct it.
Right.
We want him to direct it.
And likewise, I have no aspirations to be a producer. You know? Like, so, like, works pretty good.
So you're very conscious of your roles, and then that helps. Like you said,
Totally.
team effort.
Yeah.
How is this film different from your previous film, which you shot on weekends, and you spent all this time with this passion project? Now you have this team of people that are helping you push it forward. How has that been different?
It surprisingly wasn't all. I mean, we had all these trucks and we had trailers, and I didn't have to go to Smart and Final to pick up the water. There was like a person that did that, which was really funny because talking to Maylene beforehand, I was like, who's getting the water? And she was like, somebody will do that, Mike. You shouldn't even be thinking about this.
Maylene is our first.
Maylene, yeah, and so
I'm sorry, she's our co-producer.
Yeah, and so all of our key people, the DP, the production designers, the composer, we made the first film together too. So for everybody, I felt like this was like a big opportunity to play on a bigger canvas, and but still we had the same language that we had before. And the other thing was I was able to focus so much more on just directing. Mm-hmm. Like I didn't have to, in the back of my mind, worry about getting the waters or worry about how many extras we were going to have. Like that was handled, and it actually felt like such a luxury almost. Mm-hmm. But it's like how it should be.
From a producerial standpoint, it was really terrific to have that core group of people that he'd worked with, and then to be able to round that out and use that to sort of set the tone, and then say, okay, these are the type of people that are going to be working with us, and then hire sort of with that same mentality with the rest of the crew. It really just really worked.
And everyone had a water in their hand, and it was just like
everybody was fully hydrated.
But also, I think that was the ethos of the film. Is like we can do anything. You know, we weren't $100 million budget. We were very close. But but the answer to every creative question is always yes, and everybody on board was that way.
Yeah,
it was
you don't
have
to
it's the only way to do it. I think.
What are your hopes and dreams for the film moving forward? Like, what do you hope to get out of Sundance, and then
nothing? I'm good.
Yeah,
just screen it, walk away.
Probably. I'm probably gonna get a shirt.
Yeah.
Sundance store.
Yeah.
Put it out on VHS.
The short sleeve.
Like everybody else, we hope it has a theatrical life and a life long after. We can, we'll screen it and cross our fingers. I think we know we made a cool product, and we've got a really, really amazing cast. We just came from doing a bunch of press with them, and just seeing the five of them together. We haven't seen them.
Cool.
We haven't seen the five of them together since we made the film, really. And it's just like that energy was just it picked right up where it left off, and it was awesome. And just like it reads, it comes right off the image or the screen or whatever it is. So.
Yeah, I'm really excited for people to just see a different side of these actors, because you put these people on paper and you expect one thing, and like for instance Martin Starr, like he plays kind of a not a heartthrob, but like
he's leading Manny.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I like that word.
He's engaged to Alison Brie.
Yeah.
Alison Brie's Alison Brie. So.
Yeah.
The internet will be jealous of him.
Yeah.
Oh, certainly. Certainly.
But I'm excited for people to see a different side of these actors, because they poured themselves into this, and they did things that they haven't done before, and they all had to do some heavy lifting. So
very cool.
Yeah, I'm really proud of them.
Well, what's next for you guys? You got another project on the list?
That is a good question.
There's a couple we've been talking about.
Yeah.
I don't think we know exactly what it is yet. It'll be something with the same team and hopefully some of the same actors.
Same style, same tone?
Basically what I want to do is I want to go home to my childhood bedroom for 2 weeks and hole up and figure it out. Like, it's funny, like everyone talks about like the strongest directors are directors who know what they want. Mm-hmm. And like I think on set, especially like one of the things I really like to do is before shooting is just sit in a room and figure it out by myself. Like figure out what it's going to be, figure out what the shots are, so that when people are barraging you with questions, you know what it is. And I think same thing's true with the script and making sure that like with this we had the Jeffrey Brown books to be like it's going to be like this, and so now we need to figure out like that thing that gets everyone on the same page, so that when we move forward we can be like so confident and be like this is it, and we're so stoked about it. It's a bunch of time just sitting in a room by myself.
Not that much time though.
No.
Yeah.
Hopefully 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally we'd like to be doing something else this year.
Yeah.
This summer.
I mean, when you ask the question about like what would we like to see happen, above all else, I want to be back on set with these guys making another film as soon as possible.
Yeah. That's right.
It was
Sounds
fun.
fun.
It was fun,
It seems like you're going to have a lot more people who want to show up on your set. Cause
Yeah, well, especially once they hear about all the water.
Yeah.